Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mic'd Podcast. I'm Mike, a hairdresser of over 20 years. One of the best parts of my job is the conversations that I get to have with all of my clients. We talk about anything and everything and invite you to listen in as we get mic'd up for today's conversation. Today in the chair we have David. What happens when you take a job teaching, but all the students are convicted criminals? David gives us his story of how he found happiness teaching people that most of us have given up on. I hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, welcome. You ready to get started? Here we go.
Yeah.
This is it. So I was thinking about this, like before you got here today, I was like, you had asked me when we had booked this, like, what are we going to talk about? And it's one of those, I've told a lot of people, they're like, what's this podcast about? I'm like, I don't know, anything. Whatever people want to say, whatever we want to talk about, there's anything goes. So, but with you, there are a few stories that you have and a few life experiences that I think are worth sharing that you have shared with me in the past, and I want to get a little more into them and stuff. So I want to go a little bit kind of like your beginning history, like tell me a little bit about where you're from, what you've done. But I want to focus or at least get to the point to where you become a teacher. Because it wasn't a typical teaching job that you had. And I think that it's one that I didn't even know that it was a thing. I didn't know that this was an option. So I want to get to what led you to being that teacher, and then we'll get into how that experience is. So where does your story begin? Like, where were you born and raised? Where were you?
So my dad was serving in the Air Force, and I was born, and he finished his commission just a few weeks afterwards. So I was born in North Carolina, just outside an Air Force base, and a few weeks later I moved to the Portland, Oregon area. So I grew up there, and ended up going through all the normal stuff of kids and brothers and sisters and things, and then I go to college. And
where'd you go to college?
BYU.
Okay. And what did you study? What was your what were you hoping to be? Like when you were young, everybody has these dreams. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that.
Versus,
what were you thinking? I'm going to go to school for this, or was that teaching?
You think you're going to be, I had the professional athlete dream for a while, which I was raced for skiing and downhill, giant slalom, and stuff. And I thought I was really hot stuff, and then the U.S. ski team does their summer skiing in Oregon, and because they have glaciers up on the mountains, they ski year round. So there I was, probably 16, and out at a swimming pool, and around the corner walks this really gorgeous girl, and in a second later another one, and then another one, and another one, and stuff. And it was the C division women's ski team. So the next day I'm skiing with the absolute worst of our U.S. ski team, and stuff, and they totally put me to shame. I mean, there was like nothing left for me.
The moment you're like,
I'm like, I am
not for me.
Nope, I am not going to be the professional skier. And from then on, it was really fun racing and stuff. I skied a whole lot and stuff, but it was always just okay. This is for fun, because I am already been passed by on that one and stuff. But so I entered BYU and started with an accounting degree. Took economics course and loved that, and so I switched to economics. Economics is also one of the shortest degrees you can get, least number of credits. So
Really?
yeah, so I finished my GEs and my major and still had credits to go. So I took a bunch of construction management courses because I just thought that would be a fun hobby to have, and I've ended up building a house from the ground up on my own.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's a dream I would love to do.
Yeah, it took me like a year and a half and building it, and come home from work and climb up on the roof and put some more shingles on and stuff like that until it was so dark, and the lights weren't working anymore or whatever, and tired. Go home, got to teach the next day, and keep building the house.
So you went into economics.
Economics
with a minor in construction management.
No.
He just
took some courses.
Just took some courses.
Yeah, I
Okay.
probably should have gotten a minor in it and stuff, but I didn't. Not that much forethought in it. Just took classes because it was fun. And but I actually and I signed up several times for being a teacher, and then I'd keep dropping out just because the pay was so low, and I was like, I just don't know if I can raise a family on this and afford to do it. And but then I'd keep going back and take another course in that and whatnot. So, and you do have to have a minor. So my minor was in computer science.
Okay.
And but all excited about teaching economics, loved it. And I did my student teaching, and the economics courses were just awful.
So you knew you wanted to teach, like that was.
No.
I mean, because you were teaching economics, though, right? Is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just part of the degree. You have to go do your student teaching and get those experiences. And so that's when I taught economics and stuff. But it was really hard. It was the kids had a hard time engaging and stuff like this. And to them, it was a boring topic. To me, it was exciting, but to them, it was boring. And I had that computer science minor, and those kids, they engaged in every lesson and stuff. And so I took off, and I really stayed in the computer field teaching. So I have, more than a dozen computer credentials, and they're all really old now. But so I'm a Novell network administrator. Not that anybody has a Novell network anymore, but
I'm sure there's one. There might be somebody. I don't know.
So, so I like the computer science, but you go that far back, and a high school had one computer science course, and so there were no openings. Like, I didn't get hired as a teacher, and so I went and worked for WordPerfect and was working there. And one day I get a call that they'd like to have me come interview for a teaching job. And so it was for a classroom that was unique, and that every student in that classroom had committed multiple felony level crimes. And so I went in, and they had me teach for a day to see how it went and stuff. And the next week they called up and gave me a job offer. That started my career.
Was it something like, because I mean, here's the thing. When you first told me about this, I thought, okay, it's crazy. But like, everybody has a criminal record that you're now going to be teaching.
Yeah.
And I would be like terrified, but I think it's because of this just persona. And I was just talking to somebody else about this. Like, I can't just judge somebody based off of a bad day. So like,
well, I was also young. So when you're young, you're, invincible, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And stuff like that. And I had already been deployed. I'm an Army Reserve vet, and
Which is amazing.
there
Thank you.
was a deployment in Honduras. There was incursions across the Guatemalan border by guerrillas, and so a U.S. military presence was sent down there, and I was part of that force. And so I have this, I can do anything. I'm young, invincible. I'm a vet, and stuff like that. So no, I wasn't intimidated at all. and stuff. And the day of the where I had the interview, I mean, just got to know the kids and stuff. And so
I was going to say, what was your first day teaching like with these kids? Was it, I mean, the only thing I can base it off of is like that movie Dangerous Minds with like Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, the actual first day of teaching, not the interview day. I mean, the interview day, the administrators were there to watch me and stuff like that. And all the kids were there. And then, of course, they offered me the job the next week. And so I had to give my notice where I'm working and stuff like this. So they're running subs to keep the class going till I get there. And things went bad with the sub. And so every student was suspended. And so my actual first day, I showed up and they were all suspended. So
nobody was there.
Yeah, there was quite a fight before I got there.
You're like, this is the easiest teaching gig I've ever had.
And so,
no class.
Yep. And so most of the students, in fact, not all of them, but most of the students had fought the football team. Some comment and whatever just got out of control, but one of my kids wasn't there, and so the administration just told that one student, "Don't show up because you don't have anybody else on your side, and the football team's still mad." So yeah, I had no students literally. If you're saying, what was the first day? First day, all suspended.
So, but they did this class in just a normal school.
This one was, yeah.
It wasn't part of the prison system or part of like the juvenile is different.
Ultimately, I worked in the prison system too, but juveniles get a different treatment level and stuff, and so depends where they're at and progressing in or out of the system. Are they doing better and moving along? Are they doing worse? And we need to take them to a little more restrictive level, stuff like this. And so they try to be very individual in the decisions of where to place and what services to give a juvenile.
Okay.
In that setting. And I guess as I'm talking about this, it's all on the education side. There's a whole nother arm. There is the judicial system, and they have case managers of some of this, and then there's the therapeutic side. So then they always had their therapists coming in. So, any day I could just have a case manager walk in or their therapist, and I need this student, and they'd leave the class without much notice and come back when they came back. And that was part of my job, dealing with that.
So then as the teacher, would you have to catch them back up if they had to leave for a minute? Or how was the whole, because I feel like teachers are already overworked. We all know that. They have way too much on their plates and way underpaid.
It's a great question.
So I feel like you're getting the short end of the stick.
And then it depends on the educational system, where they're at. And so that first job, while I was teaching high school students, I would be much more what you would think of as a traditional elementary student, where I was the one licensed teacher with the students all day long. So I taught math, English, science, all the courses. Like the elementary teacher would be teaching all courses. And the traditional secondary setting, the kids rotate. And for youth in custody, there are schools and situations where they rotate the teachers, on a period basis for those kids.
And these kids aren't all the same age either, are they? Or are they?
Well, they do group them. You're not going to get any in the system that are really elementary age. So you're talking, some of it starts at junior high age, and they would tend not to mix a junior high age student with a high school age student in that setting. But that, again, depends on the services, the facility, and how they can structure it. So there can be some mixing. Traditionally, not.
So then what was your approach going into this very unique teaching?
So my first classroom, I could have up to 16 students, but most of the time I had around, 10, 12 students, and I had one or two aides in the room with me at all times, and they were educational aides. We didn't have like security or something like that with us, and and it was interesting because the administrator pretty quickly, was administrating multiple classrooms like mine, and so he came out with this, decision that he wanted credit. He was going to evaluate his teachers on the production of credit level. How many, can we get so many math credits produced and English credits produced and so on, and so not that we were in defiance, but the aides that were in my room and I were just like, it's not a great idea, and the kids aren't, wanting that, and so we came up with our own plan, and that was, we're going to make lessons to make them better citizens. It would be I guess the word, and I can't remember what word we used so many, decades ago, but the idea was these students are eventually going to be released. They're going to be living in the same cities we're living in, and we want them to be good members of our community. And so that doesn't always mean a math credit. That doesn't make you a better citizen. So we changed and geared our lessons around.
But the standards are still the same, like to get
Sure.
that degree or whatever, right?
Sure.
But you just changed the...
We changed the goal of our lessons, though, and then that became, so what can we do in English that would produce an English credit and have a result of making a better person? What history lesson could we do that would do that? And so one of our units, it was the time of Schindler's List coming out, and there was
that movie.
There was a local gentleman here that offered to pay for tickets for any class to go see it, and that was very controversial because it's an R-rated movie, and and can a teacher take kids to that and whatnot? But my class took them up on that, and so we read Eli Wiesel's The Night. We wrote English papers on it, and lots of discussions on it, and our culminating activity was to go see Schindler's List.
But obviously I feel like it's a reward for them. Like, hey, I'm going to do this and I get it rewarded for it.
Well, okay. I don't know.
It's a more positive.
So after Schindler's List, we come back the next day. We're doing our after processing, and one of the students comments. He goes, I just don't get it. They treated them worse than dogs, and I wasn't particularly trying to be hard on this one student, but he had a strong negative emotional feelings towards a certain racial group, and everyone in the class knew that, and he had all the tattoos and whatnot to support his side, and wore the colors to oppose the other side and all those things. And so there I am as the teacher, and I said something like, but isn't that how you feel about so and so? And the entire class went quiet. I clearly kind of crossed a line without particularly meaning to, but it hit home. It hit home for that student really hard, and he was quiet for a long time, and I waited for his answer, and the rest of the students waited, and he's finally almost starts to cry, or at least that's the way I'm going to remember it.
Yeah.
And but the words absolute with clear memory, and he goes, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And he was repeating that, and I finally said, okay, I got to let this kid off the hook a little bit here. I'm the adult, and and he's the teenager and stuff. And I said, okay, no, it's not the same, but it's where it starts. And that's why we study it, to know we don't want it to keep going down that way. And if you don't change, you know, that's you'll go with someone, and you know, that bad things will happen. And stuff. It was another great lesson that went with that same one. Just a funny story, but with all these tough kids in the classroom, and they're like, you know, we were reading the Night at the time, and they're like, you know, oh, we would have just beat up the Nazis. We would have done this. We would have done that. And so I had one of my staff members. They went out to the main office, and they called the extension. My phone rings. I pick it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh, that quick? You know, yeah. All right. And I says, yeah, we'd love to. And so I hang up the phone, and I'm like, hey, we got a field trip. And it was a day like today where it's snowing a bit outside and stuff like this. And so I take 12 kids, get them outside on the sidewalk, waiting for the bus transport that's going to come up. And it's like, we got to be out there waiting for it because we don't have time and stuff. And then on purpose, we rotate the staff in and out of the warmth. So there was one of us out there, and we kept them outside for 15 minutes in the snow. And then I brought them back in. I said, look, guys, I was able to do it without holding a gun. And I says, don't you ever believe that the Nazis told the Jews right off the dot what was going to happen and what they're going to do. They were lied to, deceived, and tricked. And I was able to trick you and get you to line up out in the snow for 15 minutes while keeping the rest of my staff warm and stuff. And, you know, you're not so tough. You didn't get it past me. You didn't beat us up. Don't blame the Jews.
Hey everyone, Mike here. I just wanted to interrupt this episode and say thank you for listening. And please remember to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. We need your support to keep these episodes coming. So spread the word, and now back to the conversation.
It really is an interesting thing. I mean, I've always wondered how stuff like that happened, and it is. There's little manipulations, little things. I mean, we saw a lot of stuff like people's control, like went through COVID. Like it was wild. Like how it just takes one little idea to just switch. So that's a good lesson.
Yeah.
So where did
So in that classroom, I had multiple felony crimes up to attempted murder. And the attempted murder boy had stabbed a rival gang member and had pierced his heart. And that student was just under 18, and so the judge decided very quickly, if the victim died, he'd be tried as an adult, and if the victim lived, then he'd be tried as juvenile. And obviously he's in my classroom, so the victim lives, and he's in my classroom. And within the year, his brother is killed by the rival gang, and so the police or the court system, are asking my input. Can he go to the funeral? Can we do this, and can he get back and whatnot? And he did, and stuff, and while there, his girlfriend gives birth to his first child, and I'm talking him through those things and feelings and emotions and stuff like that. So he stayed in touch with me for at least the next decade, 12 years, maybe, something like that. Not exactly sure when I lost contact with him, but my last visit with him, he shows up in a clean pressed long sleeve, white button shirt, collar, everything, looking just sharp as can be. And he starts crying, and that the gangs won't let him out. He can't end this life, and that he's just stuck, and he can't find a way out. And some of my last words to him before, we hug and say goodbye. And I have students that still, they come see me today. And
I was going to ask if you see some of your old.
Yeah, you bet. Saw one just a couple days ago and stuff. And but my last words, is he's, trying to get through this, but I'm like, I call him by name and say, you've put tattoos across your face, and you can't blame the rest of society when you're telling us who you are with those tattoos and stuff. And I said, you got, I can't tell you how to get out. That's not my specialty, but the rest of the people are going to see that, and they're going to think some thoughts, and it's not fair to, be upset at the rest of the society for not accepting you when you've told very loudly how you want to be seen. And and then I didn't see him in the next year and 2 years, and boy, I'm just regretting those words, and felt I was pretty hard on him and stuff. About 5 years later, into my classroom walks that boy that was born when he was in my classroom, his first child. And the only reason I know that was it recognized this very unique last name. So he walks in, and I'm like, do you know? And he goes, yeah, that's my dad. And I'm like, where is he? What's going on? So, and he'd been stabbed, and so.
Did he live?
No. He'd been killed by stabbing. So the actual crime that brought him to me is what took him out of the world. And it was about a year, 2 later after that, is when I told the district, if there's a transfer, I could do a different job if you want. But and they did. They gave me another job and started teaching in a traditional classroom for a year, and then there was just a little snafu in the district. A teacher moved, and the district didn't want to rehire someone, so they came back to me and said, "Hey, you're our solution." And then I went and taught kids that had committed murder, and was in the
ones that had committed murder. Different classroom setting like that, I would think.
Yes,
that one I would think that has to be in the prison or in the jail or something. Because I'm like,
yeah. Each morning I show up and I go through what I called, I don't know that it was the official name, but the man trap. So the front security opens up one door, I go in that door, it closes behind me, and I'm locked in, and then they would open up the next door, and then I'd be into the facility and head off to my classroom.
Wow. Now, that's got to be a wild teaching situation, though. Like,
no,
really?
To me, it was absolutely just fun, and they're kids, and 99% of the time, you treat them normal like kids, and I got a normal response. And I would say if I got them individual, I would definitely say 100% of the time. 100% of the time. If they're by themselves, they talked, act normal, everything. They're just kids.
So do you feel like the majority of them, it was just I don't want to say it's a mistake because everybody has a choice, but like, do you feel like there was regret for what they had done and they were just trying to make the best with what they had at this point, showing up to class, or was it?
That's a tough question, because people are people and everybody's individual, and so, are there the people that just don't really have remorse, and we got some problems with them, and I think I saw those, and then I saw ones that had great remorse, and stuff. I taught a classroom filled with pedophiles, and that was a very unique setting and situation too. So they're all individuals. I don't think you can answer that question and say this is the way it all went.
Yeah.
And in fact, so maybe to answer that, I would say after about 5 years of teaching youth in custody, I went back and I got an early childhood degree. I wanted to understand the developmental process that children went through. Okay. And somewhere again, young, stupid, I can conquer the whole world. It's like, I'm going to find out what the commonality is, and we're going to, find a way to fix this. And I just don't think there is. It's because everybody's an individual. We have free agency. And so I saw kids in my classrooms from very rich, wonderful families. Just everybody else in the family was great. And then this one kid made it. And I saw incredibly poor families. And those kids that were in my classroom are now great successes and have made a different decision. That economics, my point is economics made no real impact. And I think parents make a huge impact. I saw that in early childhood development. But that being said, it's not all the parent. So you could have wonderful parents and have a child go astray and it not be the parent's fault, and stuff. So it's all definitely very individual.
That's crazy. Because, even that, what was that? There was that case a while ago of the kid that shot the school, but his parents went to jail because of it. And I'm like, is that, I guess that's one of those cases where it is an individual thing. Was it the parents' fault? I don't know. Was it the kid's fault? He definitely committed the crime.
Definitely glad I didn't have to be the judge.
Yeah,
And I can't remember what year in my career, but for the most part, I could usually, I was given the student files and I could find out what I wanted to find out, some of this. And it wasn't too long into it. I just stopped. It just made no difference. So, so for the majority of my career, I just didn't bother to look. They're my students, and this is what I can, and talk to them. What do they want from me as a teacher, and what can I give them? And had one little girl in my class, and I think for this class I was maybe teaching something like web page design or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but she's in the class and does nothing. So I flunk her the whole semester. Next year, signs up, and she's in my class again. I actually go to administration and say, hey, look, I've done my time. She, she should be somewhere else. And they said, no, she specifically asked for you. I'm like, okay, great, happy to teach her. So I go in, she does nothing. So whole semester. And most every day I'm up there and call her by name and say, do you want to do today's lesson? Can I help you? Nothing, So flunker. Third year, signs up again for my class. And I'm just like, okay, don't even bother to go to administration. Just, okay, she's in my class. Straight A. She did everything. It was absolutely awesome, and engaging, doing stuff. And I was like, this is perfect. And then she got pregnant and dropped out. It's like, oh no, and stuff like this. But for like she probably stayed in contact. Now, and she didn't like specifically ever come find me, but I'd go in the grocery store and she'd see me and it'd run up and Dave, and she'd just and just talk and tell me about her life and stuff.
But did you ever ask her, like, why did you take it and flunk and then take it again and flunk? And
No, because I'm pretty sure I know why, and so that wasn't important. And so I think she was abused, and in some sense, and probability is, she's abused by a guy, and then here I am. I'm again a vet. I'm bigger, deeper voice or whatnot. And so she took my class because I created a safe environment. That's it. And then why did it take 3 years for her to get an A? Because she needed to make sure I was worth that trust. That, and you're not going to ask someone that.
No.
So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I told you I taught a class of pedophiles. I also taught a class of girls that had been abused. And I can't remember how many years I taught them, but they kept specifically asking for my class, which I thought, every girl in there was. And I'm like, you think they'd be asking for the girl teachers?
Well, I'd say in that situation, yeah, it's.
Yep.
But I mean, I guess that resonates and shows like how good of a teacher you actually were. If
Well, I see, I think you take it too far. I don't know if that means I'm a good teacher, but I hope it means I was a good person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, both.
I got Teacher of the Year once, and interesting with in the detention center with the kids that committed murder. I have a state award, and it's hanging in my tax office. They went on a competition against all the traditional high schools, probably 500 to 700 teams, and they took first place in investing in the stock market.
Wow.
So, and it was an awesome win, but they don't let them go to the awards ceremony because they're locked up and stuff, and so it was pretty awesome. The Utah State Treasurer came to the facility to give them the award.
So I know, I mean, you don't do that anymore, but
Right.
do you ever go back to the classrooms obviously they probably still have that system going now.
Yeah, it's all still
Do you ever
going.
go back and pop in? And I mean, I feel like it would be one of those things, check in on the teachers that are there teaching and be like, how are you doing? Because
the teachers are friends. So yes, I'm in contact with teachers and administrators that I worked with all those years. The students move on, and it's always inappropriate for you to ever, say, here's my contact or something. But when they turn 18, if they want to go find me, then that's a different situation. And
Yeah.
so that's just part of it. One teacher, when I was getting close to retiring, but she gave this analogy, which I had never thought of while I was teaching, but teaching is like stirring a pail of water. And while your hand's in there and you're stirring that pail of water, you make a lot of difference. But as soon as you pull your hand out, it's, everything you've done is just gone. And, it's the next person's hand that's doing the job. So you just move on. Next thing in life comes.
So did you find, I mean, I guess during that time, because again, I think most people would think that, wow, what a difficult job you must have had. But obviously you did it for quite a few years. So did you find
I thought it was
joy in
the
it?
best kept secret.
Really?
It was like, first off, parent-teacher conference, parents didn't show up. I just had to talk to the case managers, and that was, emails and whatnot. If a kid misbehaved, I could call a case manager and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things that were incredibly nice about it.
So you didn't have the standard teacher obligations for late Monday nights or Wednesday nights or whatever.
You know, I mean, I had to grade papers and all those things, but I thought it was a great career that fit my personality and work style. And
oh man. So at what age, when did you retired from that? Like that was you were 60, like, you know, at retirement age and that was it, or what?
So most teachers to hit retirement would teach 30 years.
Okay.
The state now wants 35 years. But I've always been involved in business. I've had a retail store. I'm the original owner of Dragon's Keep, a comic book and game store on University Avenue.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember going in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
you did. You
I
went there.
did.
All right.
I mean, I went in out of
Okay,
curiosity, like what
nerds.
is what is that?
If you're going in a comic book store, you're a nerd.
I mean, I grew up. My brothers would love. If my older brother, always loved comics. He was collecting what was Ghost Rider. Was
There you
his
go.
like?
There you go.
He was a big Ghost Rider, so we'd always go into. But I remember going into that one too, because
Okay. Well, so yeah, I started it. I built it from the ground up and stuff like that. And so somewhere in the becoming a teacher, on the professional side, I loved it because if my own children were sick, I could call in and I could stay home and take care of them.
Yeah.
That was nice. And so I always thought the hardest part of my career is going to be after my kids are grown. You know, then I lose a lot of what I want as a benefit of being a teacher, and it's such low pay. So, you know, I keep doing this low pay job if I'm not getting this other benefit and stuff. And so really the last several years were pretty tough, but I, being a finance guy that I am, I purchased all my military years. I purchased every government thing I did and put it into the URS system. And then I purchased my last 5 years. So I taught in Utah only like 23 years, but have a 30-year pension. Wow. It's expensive to do that. But, and again, being a tax and finance economics kind of guy, you could do that oddly with 401k money. So you didn't have to pay tax on it, and it was considered a qualified rollover to do the purchase. So I purchased all of that tax-free. And
that's awesome.
That's kind of, you know, you want to put in a tax-free, you know, advice, you know, link down at the bottom or something. It's like, you know, buy that stuff with your retirement plan.
Well, I was
So
gonna
I-
say, because
so-
now your taxes, all
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing now. Is
Yeah, I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS, which means I generally would defend you in an audit from the IRS, and I do pretty good, and I do very good.
I
And
was gonna say, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I do very good. I you know, I mean, there's ones I don't win, but usually they hand me the tax return, I look at it and I say, well, that's a lie. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, well, because I've been doing this for a decade. That's a lie. I can tell, and so can the IRS agent. So let's just figure out what we're going to do now and how we're going to tell the truth and get a better story in and stuff. But, and then, and you know who Dave Ramsey is.
Uh-huh.
So if you went to his website and asked for tax help here in Utah County, they'd send you to me.
Really?
I'm the Dave Ramsey ELP for tax.
Okay.
And small business, and then just me being a teacher, I work with UVU, Small Business Development Center. I'm their tax advisor. So I help people on startups.
So if anybody is in Utah County and needs, or outside of Utah County.
Yeah, for
like-
UVU, it's statewide. I do a statewide course once a month.
So anybody in the state of Utah that needs some tax help, how do they get a hold of you? What?
So the UVU Small Business Development Center, but I'm Tax Pro of Provo, and that's I search really easy on Google.
Okay.
without paying for any ads. I do really good. So,
Alrighty, well, we're done.
this looks awesome.
Is there any last little tidbits, things that you want to share? I mean, I really appreciate you sharing your story, because there's not a lot of people that I think that could have done the stuff that you've done and put yourself into those positions to help those kids.
So I just, watching your previous podcast with the police officer, I can't remember her name, but, and she's just like, treat people like people. And it's all the things that she was saying, that part that I was listening to there. And the same went for my students. I mean, I was just sitting there going, yeah, that's it. I think you have a theme going, but it's, it didn't matter who they were. Just treat people nicely. And so I think she said, be mean to me and I'll be meaner back. I might not have done that part, but she was an officer and stuff like that. But,
So
she could do that part.
Oh,
But and I think the world of officers and what they have to go through. But yeah, it's it's the golden rule and stuff like that. All those things are good. We learn most of the right things by the time we hit first grade.
Yeah.
Stick with those. You do well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. So,
Thanks, Mike.
Hope the haircut works.
Yeah.
Okay.